Introduction, Shufeng. Before many chemical elements were found, most of the chemists didn't know how many chemical elements are there on the Earth and their relationship. Dmitry Mendeleev had already made the famous periodic table of the chemical element, calculated the atomic quantity of elements, and showed us the relationship between them. The elements discovered later were all included in his table. The case has demonstrated everything in the universe has the order and laws. Some people say the universe is lawless and disorderly because they haven't found the laws and order. 宇宙的起源, origin of the universe. All things within the time scope, including the celestial bodies and universe, have their origin, the birth time and process of development. The beginning and ending time of the universe, just as the and golden ratio, is mysterious and can't be reached by our wisdom. Compared with the wisdom of the greatest creator, our wisdom is just like a drop in the sea. I would like to share my knowledge of the beginning of the universe gained while my mind was in peace. When I am seeking what things in the universe are eternal, when I am thinking about the resurrection in the Bible, when I am meditating that the life is like a dream and all the four elements, earth, water, fire, and air of which the world is made, are void in the Buddhist scripture, when I am trying to figure out the source of Tao in the Tao Te Ching, when I ask myself why I would go to the mortal world, why we exist, and where we are going, I have known the beginning process of the universe. However, when I am delighted to think I have found the mystery of the universe, I suddenly realize that this mystery of the universe beginning was explained by the humans, the ancestors of Dragon Nation, 6,000 years ago. It is like a Mt. Everest climber, after reaching the peak after multiple difficulties, finds someone else has left his footprint on it. Thus, I am not bold enough to claim myself as the first one knowing the universe beginning. I only wish to add some details based on the wisdom of the past talents. The river diagram, the Book of Changes, and the Yellow Emperor's Book of Internal Medicine have told us the process of the universe beginning is Wuji generates Taiji, Taiji generates two polarities, the two polarities produce the four directions create the eight. Before the existing of the universe, it was Wuji. What is the state of Wuji? Wuji is the state of neither in nor out, neither big nor small, neither bound nor edge, neither null nor true, neither time nor space, neither material nor spirit. It is clear, chaos, everything and nothing. The detailed explanation of the state can't be completed even in a book containing 1 million words. I just want to stick to one point. According to the estimation of the paleontologists, the Earth was born about 4.5 billion years ago. Then where was the Earth before it was born? We can only conclude that it was in Wuji before it was born, just like the human beings. We were also in Wuji before we were born. Because the whole universe was in Wuji before it was born, Wuji contains everything. But where is Wuji? A thing without time, space, material, spirit, inside, outside, large size, small size, border, edge, firmness, or emptiness can only be described by the word shapeless and visionary. However, Wuji doesn't mean it contains nothing. Instead, it contains everything. It has nothing and everything at the same time. That's why the Diamond Sutra was profound and difficult to understand. For example, if Tathagata explains the laws, don't believe it. The laws can't be explained. If explained, they are not the laws or not the lawless. The Buddhism is no Buddhism. The name of Anagami is Bulai. But actually Bulai doesn't exist. So Anagami is called Anagami. The solemn Buddhist is not solemn. It is called the solemn. Tathagata says the world is not the world. So it is called the world. I should eliminate all life. After doing that, I found no life has been eliminated. And so on. If we don't know the origin of the universe, it is very difficult for us to understand the above Buddha words. If we can fully understand the above non-Buddha words, we will know the origin of the universe. Before everything was born, they were in Wuji. So Wuji means everything. We wish to take an example from the mythical novel Journey to the West to imagine the space in Wuji. Monk Tang and his apprentices entered the disguised monastery. The Monkey King was trapped in the gold symbol by the demon head. So how big or how small was this gold symbol? No matter how high or how low the Monkey King could transform himself, the symbol could change too following him. The Wuji space before the universe was born was in the state as the symbol. It was extremely large and extremely small. The space described in Einstein's general theory of relativity just refers to the space above mentioned. The size of the space is not decided by the energy. However, it is decided by the existence of matters. The more matters are transformed from the energy, the larger the space will be, and vice versa. If there is no matter, there will no space. It's the same as the relationship between the Monkey King and the gold symbol. The space in the symbol is decided by the size of the Monkey King transforms himself. The traditional science believes that space is like a box and the material is a particle in the box. When the particle disappears, space is still there. Nevertheless, space is not like that. When the particle is not there, space will disappear. Space is determined by the distribution of particles. Space will twist, swell, contract, or even disappear as the material and its energy change the size. How to understand the time in Wuji? Time is generated by the movement of objects. There is no time without motion. For example, a man is 40 years old because the cells in his body are splitting, moving, and dying. If the cells were not moving or splitting, he would not have lived till 40. A piece of fresh meat will rot in a few days if placed open to the air in hot weather. However, if we put the meat in the fridge, it will not rot in months. Why? The meat in the fridge has slow, even halting cell movement. When the cell movement slows down, the time of the meat is lengthened. And when the cell movement stops, the time of the meat disappears. If a man is never born, does he still have time? If the earth is not born, does the earth have time? If the universe is not born, does the universe have time? No. This is the time in Wuji. The core of the quantum mechanics is the uncertainty. Why? The time does not lapse evenly. The time is changing. So how can you obtain this certainty? That's all about my explanation of Wuji. Wuji generates Taiji. What is the state of Taiji? First, we have to know Taiji is generated from Wuji. Wuji is nothing and everything. It is everything because the energy existence in it can produce the material world. It is nothing because the energy in it is not material. It is chaos without firmness or emptiness. It is like the sky. When the sky is clear, there is nothing in it. But when it is cloudy, we can see the clouds and lightings and hear the thunders. Then there is everything. In Wuji, there is the intangible energy. The intangible energy, in contrast with the tangible energy, is moving irregularly. When the irregular movement, accidentally on a point, formed a specific order or symbol, the entire Wuji has formed a potential power arrow called the tornado, centered on this point. This potential power arrow, or tornado, is just called Taiji. Please note that the tornado is simply a momentum with only potential power. It does not have kinetic energy because it is not rotating. This is how Taiji is generated from Wuji. Taiji is in such a state. It is the one, amorphous, the unity without opposites, and an extremely large energy cluster. It is just like a locked reservoir containing billions of Pacific. The Taiji is just the greatest creator in common sense. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu said, "Chaos was born before there was the earth and heaven." Before the universe was born, something existed. This something is Taiji, the psychic energy of the greatest creator. Lao Tzu named this something as Tao because he confused the nature and psychic energy of the greatest creator. After understanding what Wuji is, we can understand Buddha and Buddhism. After understanding Taiji, we can understand Tao and Taoism. Taiji creates the two polarities. What are the two polarities? It refers to the phenomenon of opposition. For instance, in the state of Taiji, everything is the one and amorphous. But in the state of the two polarities, the intangible energy is shown up in a tangible form. The sun, for example, is an energy cluster. It has been transformed from the intangible energy form in the state of Taiji into the tangible energy form. So the energy is classified into the tangible energy and intangible energy. None and existence form the two polarities, namely, the unity of opposites. The contents of the two polarities include none and existence, firmness and emptiness, yin and yang, positive and negative, static and dynamic, left and right, up and down, exterior and interior, front and rear, high and low, noble and humble, hard and soft, big and small, strong and weak, dark and light, male and female, rich and poor, fortunate and unfortunate, gain and loss, merit and fault, more and less, life and death, true and false, good and evil, beauty and ugly, etc. They are the unities of opposites. Everything in the universe, as we know, is the demonstrations of the two polarities. Then how are the two polarities were born out of the Taiji? We have known that the irregular movement of energy in Wuji accidentally formed a certain order. All the energy, in a short while, formed overwhelmingly an intangible potential energy. If the potential energy is not given out, it will only remain latent like a paper-made tiger. However, when all energies gather at the central point, the energy center has changed its nature, just like the water will evaporate when heated to a certain degree. At this time, the energy center, or the nucleus, is no longer a kind of energy. Instead, it has become a special structure surrounded by great energies. When this structure is complete, the consciousness comes into being. It is just like a fertilized egg without consciousness. When it keeps absorbing energy in its mother's uterus and improves its structure, a conscious animal, human, will be born. The gathering of mammoth energies has led to the alienation of the energy center, resulting in a structure. The constant improvement of the structure ended up with the emergence of the consciousness, which is the symbol of life, birth. The consciousness gathering all energies then started the process of creating the universe. And it is the greatest creator. After the greatest creator is born, the energy in the Taiji began to move around the greatest creator's consciousness. We can also say that all energies move around the structure of the energy center. Just like a human body, when your consciousness tells you to urinate, the bladder door is open and the urine goes out. When you want to look at the sky, your head will be raised and your eyes opened automatically. When you want to have sexual intercourse, your penis is erected. After the greatest creator is born, the two polarities come into being. The celestial bodies show up, the celestial movement begins, the unlimited space is born, the time starts, and everything gets into the movement cycle of life and death. 6. The two polarities create the four directions. The two polarities have brought about the four directions. There is south, north, east, and west. There is front, rear, left, and right. There is life, growth, decline, and death. There is quadrant 1, 2, 3, and 4 in the function image. 7. The four directions create the 8 trigrams. Because there is south, north, east, and west, there are now 8 directions including the east, southeast, south, southwest, west, northwest, north, and northeast. The 8 directions are called Qian, Dui, Li, Jian, Sun, Can, Jin, and Kuren respectively, forming the 8 trigrams. Each direction has its special meaning. Each direction has its different chance changes. Let's take a person as an example. If he remains healthy in the south, he might find it difficult to get accustomed to the north. If nothing goes smooth in the east, he may achieve success in the west, and the ugly duckling might become the white swan. Even grass will have different growth model and blossoming timing in different directions and locations. The permutation and combination of the 8 trigrams, Qian, Dui, Li, Jian, Sun, Can, Jin, and Kuren, produce the 64 trigrams. The 64 trigrams are corresponding to the 64 factors in the universe. But as to the details of these 64 factors, because they are related to all the mysteries in the universe and hidden to the common people, even the King Wen of Zhou in the canonization of the gods didn't know all of them. And the most achieved Taoists in China only knew a few of the factors. Sakyamuni masters half of them, and Jesus only knows a few more than Sakyamuni does. We often hear people say, no disclosure of the heaven secrets. The heaven secrets are just hidden in the 64 trigrams. The permutation and combination of the 64 trigrams have caused the birth and death of all things in the universe. The things that you can't imagine are just the combination of 2 factors. The power of Jesus lies in his mastery of the formula of these factors. The birth and death of all things, the limitless mysteries and all changes and movements in the universe are hidden in the permutation and combination, formula, of these 64 trigrams. No coming, no going, the time-space ends and origin shows up. This is the brief process of the birth of the universe. Overview of the universe. Jiefeng. The universe is the order. The universe exists as the order and remains relatively stable with the total energies reaching zero. The definition of the universe. The space with the negative and positive energies reaching zero is called the universe. Or the space with the balanced matter and antimatter is called the universe. The shape and structure of the universe. The universe is called the large universe and small universe. The borderless one is called the large universe, and the one with borders is called the small universe. The large universe is made up of numerous small universes. Pi equals 3.14159.2653589. It is the symbol of the large universe, which is limitless, no cycling, endless, vast, and eternal. The small universe is the relatively secluded and independent galaxy space in the large universe, like the swirls in the river. Each swirl is a relatively independent rotating space. It's also like the eggs in a henhouse in which each egg is an independent and secluded space. The Earth we live on is in a small universe. We might as well call this universe the Earth universe to distinguish it from the other small universes. The Earth universe is a saucer-shaped Taiji oval with its edge covered by a layer of high-energy clouds. The layer of high-energy clouds is the crust of the Earth universe. At the same time, it functions like the stator of a motor. It is a rotating magnetic field, pushing the things on the Earth universe to rotate counterclockwise. The structure of the Earth universe is an oval-shaped rotating object composed of yin and yang, the two meshing revolvers, just like the Taiji diagram of Taoism in China. The difference is that the Taiji diagram is a circle while the Earth universe is a Taiji oval body. We call the Taiji oval body the low rotary galaxy, in which there are almost 3,000 rotary river galaxies. Each rotary river galaxy is a relatively independent rotating one. In each rotary river galaxy, there are almost 3,000 Milky Way systems, with each containing almost 3,000 solar systems. The rotating rate of each celestial body and galaxy seems to be constant, but the fact is that the rate is changing all the time. Each celestial body, when it is on the short axis, the rotating speed reaches the maximum. The farther it is from the short axis, the slower it rotates. When reaching the two ends of the long axis, the celestial body will halt for a short time, on which moment all the physical life on the celestial body will die. The spiritual body of the dead life will enter the negative pole of the Taiji oval body, which is called one kalpa. After passing the long axis, the spiritual body will get out of the negative pole of the Taiji oval body and enter the positive pole in the form of the physical life. Because the celestial bodies and galaxies have different mass, they stay on the long axis for different periods of time. So they are in permutation and combination again. For example, the Earth, in the next cycle, might become a desert land like the Mars, which might be full of life like the Earth. The spatial distance between celestial bodies and galaxies is also in constant change. The closer they are to the short axis, the more distance they will have. The universe seems to be expanding. The closer it stays to the long axis, the less distance it will have. It seems that the universe is shrinking. At present, the Milky Way system is now floating towards the short axis. The Earth universe is classified into the positive universe and negative universe. The positive universe. The sickle world is the positive universe. All the matters, tangible, seeable, touchable, hearable, perceptible, and those that can be measured by the instruments belong to the scope of the positive universe. The dark matters and energies are also classified into the scope of positive universe. For instance, the house, desk, plant, animal, human body, cloud, wind, thunder, lightning, sound, odor, molecule, atom, electron, ion, proton, neutron, nucleon, meson, hyperon, barytron, antiparticle, light ray, gravitation, magnetic force, infrared ray, ultraviolet ray, cathode ray, positive ray, ultrasonic wave, infrasonic wave, biowave. The noise caused by the high and low frequency oscillation, diffusive substances emitted by the radioactive elements such as radium, uranium, plutonium, and francium, and the universal gravitation all belong to the scope of the positive universe. All things existing in the universe in the form of elementary particles are matters. The physical world is the world that can be explained and will be explained by the science. The scope can be explained by the science belongs to the scope of matters. The scope that can't be explained by the science belongs to the superstitious scope not accepted by the people. When science tries to explain the things beyond the material world, it is not science anymore. Instead, it is called the anti-science or superscience. All the religions and the superstitious things are the superscience that stands against the science. The negative universe. The anti-world is the negative universe. All the supermatters, intangible, and others that can't be seen, heard, touched, measured, or felt but affect the material world all belong to the scope of the negative world. For instance, the universal repulsion, time, space, spirit, consciousness, thinking, soul, life soul, belong to the non-materials. The belief, Tao, law, order, spell, and Buddhism belong to the non-materials. The angel, God, ghost, Buddha, devil, and other amorphous life are the non-materials. The dream scene, origin of the spiritual feeling, the bridge of the telepathy, the passage of the thinking telepathy, the paradise, the hell, Allah, ancestor of the Buddha, Yahweh and their residences, the zero world, the heaven world, the venue of the gods, and the Elysium where the spiritual body goes to after the dies all belong to the scope of the negative universe. The fantasy is no fantasy, and the reality is no reality, and the seeable is not usable, and the usable is not seeable, as believed by the Taoists belong to the scope of the negative universe. All energies and energy groups that do not exist in the universe in the form of the elementary particles are the antimatters. The positive universe can be explained by the science and is easy to be understood. The negative universe, till now, can only be felt by the people not very clearly. It can't be explained by the science and is difficult to understand. The negative universe is the anti-world. The negative universe is the origin of the matters. The material world is the reflection of the anti-world and image of the negative universe. Everything in the material world is in constant movement and change. They have birth and death. On the contrary, everything in the negative world exists in the relatively eternal state. The law of the universe, the unity of the opposites. Everything in the universe exists in unity of opposites, such as yin and yang, positive and negative, man and woman, male and female, front and rear, exterior and interior, high and low, up and down, firmness and emptiness, glory and shame, static and dynamic, noble and humble, weak and strong, rich and poor, merit and fault, fortunate and unfortunate, gain and loss, forward and backward, more and less, day and night, past and future, tangible and intangible, life and death. Each pair depends on each other. Without one, the opposite one will not exist. The unity of the opposites is the presentation of the universe nature. However, it is a major law of the universe existence. The negative is there because of the positive, and the universal repulsive force is there because of the universal gravitation. It is the same with the matter and antimatter, particle and non-antiparticle, photon and antiphoton, energy and negative energy, the left rotation and right rotation, in the mortal world and the fairy world. You can find the black where you find the white and the male where you find the female. It is the same with the life and death, flesh and soul, paradise and hell, law and lawless, chaos and peace. When the whole society is seeking wealth, there must be some people seeking knowledge. When the whole society is at peace, some force must be preparing for the riot. When all the human beings face the disaster because they have violated the God's orders, the representatives sent by the God and Buddha will help them to wake up. The extremely dynamic will lead to the static, and vice versa. The movement of the universe. The movement of the large universe is initiated and operated by the structure in the Taiji Energy Cluster Center. That is to say, it is initiated and operated by the consciousness of the greatest creator. The small universe, where the Earth lies in, is fueled by the hull of the Earth universe, which is a rotating magnetic field belt. In the universe, there are two groups of energies with the opposite nature, like the action and the reaction. They have the different power but reverse directions. So the total energy stands at zero. These two groups of energies are the Buddhist power, maintaining the orderly operation, stability, and balance of the universe. If we add these two groups of energies, we will get zero. However, when either group is more powerful than the other, the universe will disappear immediately. For instance, the universal gravitation and the universal repulsive force have the same power and opposite movement directions. Because the total is zero, the solar system, the Milky Way system, the low rotary system, and rotary river system move in an orderly way. If there is only the universal gravitation without the universal repulsive force, all the celestial movement in the universe will become the direct line movement and join together in the ultra-light speed. So the universe will disappear immediately. If there is only the universal repulsive force without the universal gravitation, there will not be the rotations of the celestial bodies in the universe. The Earth will not move around the Sun, and all the celestial movement will become the direct line movement. The celestial bodies will expand rapidly at the ultralight speed. In the end, they will burn and die, and the universe will disappear, too. In the human society, the science and superstitious are also two groups of energies with equal power and mutual repulsion with total zero energy. There is no science without the superstitious and vice versa. These two forces constrain each other and move forward together. The more developed the science is, the more active the superstitious activities will become, because the science will prove that the superstitious is not superstitious at all. Instead, it is the superscience. On the other hand, the more powerful the superstitious is, the more developed the science will be, because the superstitious will expand the scope of the science. The science and the superstitious is a unity of the opposites. The science finds it impossible to eliminate the superstitious, which also finds it impossible to eliminate the science. The positive universe is levorotation and the negative universe is dextrorotation. The point for understanding the universe. The correct understanding of the universe will help us build the correct universe concept, world concept, and life concept. When we gradually know about the negative universe, there are fewer mysteries left behind for the world. We will know our past and future, Buddha, Buddhism, Tao and Taoism, Jesus, and the greatest creator. We can face the death and the life sufferings peacefully. In particular, when have made self-improvement and self-refinery to a certain degree, see the 1,000-year world, 10,000-year world, and the Elysium world, we will long for them, just like those people live in the poor countries suddenly see what the developed countries are like in TV. We will know what we should do, and will discover the value and mysteries in the life Chanyuan. You might think that the 10,000-year world hundreds of thousands of light years away is much too far away. But the distance is just one step. People living a few hundred years ago used to think that there was a long distance between the Cape of Good Hope and San Francisco of the States. But today we know it will only take us 2 days to get there. And instant reaching can be achieved via telephone or internet. When we have dreams, the spiritual human body gets out of the flesh body and reaches his friends or relatives far away in a short distance. Even, the spiritual body can follow the time axis to meet with the deceased friends or relatives. For the spiritual bodies, there is no distance of time and space. When we have developed into the spiritual bodies of the celestial beings, it is an easy task to travel through time-space. The universe is our home. The Earth is just a point in the home, a temporary hotel, the chapter of time, the meaning of time, Jiefeng. The time is a recorder of the motion of matters. Time rises from motion. There will be no time without the motion. The time exists within all the moving matters and is spread in all the material universe space. The time is antimatters. We can't see, touch, listen, measure, catch, seize, store, borrow, or debit the time. Time is intangible. It can be described but not depicted. The time only exists in the material world. There is no time in the anti-world, the negative universe, just like the thunder and lightning only existing in the clouds. If the sky is clear, there will be no thunder or lightning. The time is both positive and negative. The future time is positive and the past time is negative. The time is universal or specific. The universal feature applies to the whole while specific feature applies to the individual. We pick up 2 mature pears from the tree and place one in the open air and the other in the fridge. 5 days later, the pear in the open air has rotten while the one in the fridge is still fresh. From the universal point of view of the time, these two pairs both last 5 days, or 120 hours. But from the perspective of the specific feature of the time, one day for the pair in the open air is more than 24 hours, while one day for the one in the fridge is less than 24 hours, or even 1 hour. Time is variable. In different spaces, time is different. The humans regulates that one rotation of the Earth is a day, and one revolving of the Earth around the Sun is a year. One revolving of the Moon around the Earth is a month, lunar calendar. One day contains 24 hours, and each hour has 60 minutes. The regulations have given convenience to the human activities, and the whole world can work and rest regularly in the same time system. The above calculation is made on the premise that the certain object on the Earth remains still. For the objects in motion, the time is a variable. For instance, you take a spaceship and fly to the east. According to the traveling speed of the spaceship, you will spend less than 24 hours a day. The faster the speed is, the less the time you spend. If the spaceship has the same speed as the Earth rotation, one day has 24 hours for you. If the spaceship flies to the west and exceeds the speed of the Earth rotation, the one day of yours is more than 24 hours. If the one day of yours has 240 hours, it has 2,400 hours for the people living on the Earth. If you maintain the movement state, you will not feel the existence of time. 50 years later, when you come back to the Earth, you will find your friends in childhood have all become elderly while you are still a young man. Different locations have different time. What we mean by New York time, Beijing time, London time, etc. account for the above statement. Different zones also have different time. The tropical and the frigid zones have different time. If one person is frozen in the ice, he will have unlimited time. If one man stays in an extremely thermal environment, his time will be shortened. Meanwhile, the time on the sea and the time on the mountain are also different. Different mass has different time. The greater the mass is, the longer life it will have, and vice versa. For the objects with the same size, the diamond has longer life than other stones, wood, and clouds. For the objects with the same mass, the larger they are, the shorter time they will have. The time of 1 kilo meat is shorter than that of 1 kilo stone. For the people with the same weight, the higher he is, the shorter time he will have. The time of the people living on the Earth is longer than that of those living on the Moon. For instance, a man who can live 80 years on the Earth can only live 30 years on the Moon. Different universe spaces have different time. The time on the Moon is different from that on the Earth. The time on the Earth is different from that in the Sun. The man who can live 100 years on the Earth can live 1,000 years in the 1,000-year world and 30,000 years in the 10,000-year world. The main reason is that the Earth, the 1,000-year world planet, and the 10,000-year world planet have different mass. The so-called 1 day in the heaven equals 1 year in the mortal world is because they are in different spaces. The time can be expanded or compressed. The higher speed the objects have, the more compressed the time will be, and vice versa. For instance, two people start from the same line and walk towards the same goal. He who walks faster will reach the goal. His time has been compressed. The other one just walks slowly, stopping at times, picking up gravels on the ground, touching the grass, saying hell to the bird and bye-bye to the cloud. He will reach the goal later. His time has been expanded. The time of life. Because life is composed of matters, flesh body, and antimatters, spiritual body. The time has two meaning for the life, too. For the flesh body of the life, time is eternal. That is to say, the flesh body of the life will have the process of birth, growth, aging, and death. No power can stop the process. The humans can't have the eternal time. But the spiritual body of the life is antimatter, which is not limited or constrained by the time and can cycle in the limitless space. For the flesh body, the time is vertical and composed of the past, present, and the future. For the spiritual body, the time is horizontal. From either point of the life, the spiritual body can enter the horizontal time, going beyond life and death and entering the eternal time-space. In the virtual function image, x-axis represents the time attributes in the scope of matters, while z-axis stands for the time attributes in the scope of antimatters. X-axis is vertical and the z-axis is horizontal. X-axis only travels in the space of the past, present, and future, and the z-axis can get out of the constraint of the present in a short time and enter another space. So we can conclude that when a person dies, only his flesh body dies. The spiritual body of his life follows the axis at the time point of his death, entering another time space and starting a new life in it. 3. The surmounting of time. Perception and surmounting. Perception. Time changes everything. Time is the key factor to the deformation of objects. The mountain 1,000 years ago was different from what it is today. The river 100 years ago was not the same as it is like today. The person 10 years ago is different from what he is today. It is the same with the tree, flower, moth, cloud, meat, spark, and thunder. Without the movement, there is no time. If there is no orbiting of the Earth around the sun, there is no such time as the year. If there is no Earth rotation, there is no such time as the day. If there is no revolving of the moon around the Earth, there is no such time as the month. And there will not be minute, hour, or second. The time will be zero. So without movement, there will be no time. Without the time, everything will be eternal. As far as the object relativity is concerned, when two objects have the same running speed, the time between them is zero. When the moon revolves around the Earth at the same speed with the Earth rotation, there will be no month. When the Earth revolves around the sun at the same speed of the light speed, the time in the universal meaning will disappear. Or we say the time in the narrow definition stops while the time in the broad definition still exists and affects the life on the Earth. As far as the objects themselves are concerned, the faster they move, the quicker the time runs and the shorter life they have, and vice versa. For instance, there are two cars, A and B. Car A drives at 120 kilometers per hour and car B at 60 kilometers. Contrasted with other objects, these two cars all run 1 hour. But for car A, the time is 2 times more than car B. If car B is scrapped in 10 years' time, car A will be scrapped in 5 years. For humans, excluding other factors, and we only focus on the impact of speed on human life, the people who do things slowly and orderly will live longer than those always living in a hurry and with efficiency. The late maturing kids will have longer life than the early mature kids. The shepherds live longer than the athletes. The nuns live longer than the prostitutes. And Taoists live longer than the worldly people. Time changes everything. And everything exists in the specific time. To attain eternal existence for an object, we must make the time eternal where it exists. Time determines everything. In the scope of time, everything is empty and illusion. You work hard persistently, but what are you creating? As a matter of fact, you are pursing the illusion. Does the Roman Empire still exist now? Who can remember the name of your grandfather? Some people might think that your merits will be written in the history and your name will be admired by generations of people. But the fact is that the Earth will one day perish when it moves to the long axis of the Earth universe. Or several hundred years later, the human society will have fundamental changes and your merits will turn to dust and ashes. Who will mourn you every day? Please stop the narcissism and self-cheating. The positive time ages the objects while the negative time returns the objects from old age to the young age. Looking into the future, we will become older. Looking back to the past, we become younger. Follow the time, we become mortal. Reversing the time, we become the celestial beings. For the material world, the time is eternal. For the human beings, the time is short because we are not able to gain the eternal existence in the material world. The short life, for us, is valuable. We are wasting our time if we focus on seeking the material benefits instead of on seeking the surmounting of time in the limited life. Though the life is short, we must learn how to use our time. If we don't know the mysteries of the universe and the essence of life, our life will be bitter, misery, and unhappy even if we live 1,000 years. Surmounting. The movement of polarities. On the one hand, the time only exists in the material world. Time generates from the motion of matter. There will be no time without the motion of matter. The food and vegetables stored in the fridge can be kept long because their motion has been greatly reduced. If a car drives 10,000 kilometers a year, it will be scrapped 30 years later. However, if it drives 30,000 kilometers a year, I will be scrapped in 1 year. If a man works hard day and night, ponders day and night, seeks the immediate interest, desires for things eagerly, and finds it difficult to control his temper, he will have shorter life. If he has peaceful mind and peaceful life, he will have longer life, thus surmounting the time. On the other hand, because the anti-world has no time, we will make full use of the antimatter energy to break through the limit and constraint of the time. The spirit, consciousness, thinking, belief, and soul of human beings are all the antimatters. If we live in the world of these antimatters, time will have no impact on us and we can surmount it. The spirit, consciousness, thinking, belief, and soul of humans are connected with the whole negative universe, the anti-world. The achievement will be made by your thinking, by Xue Binyi. The art of application lies in the heart, by Taoists. Tao abides in non-action, yet nothing is left undone, by Lao Tzu. Mind rises from no certain things. By Sakyamuni, the richness lies in the heart rather than the worldly belongs. By Muhammad, your heart is where your treasures are. Jesus, we will go where our heart is. Only by understanding the meaning of the above words, we can surmount the time and reach eternality. Go against the time. What is going against the time? We see the time as a train, and we are sitting on the train. The train moves forward, and we run backward. When our speed is the same as that of the train, the time